Well, good afternoon, everyone. How many people want to take this outside? Well, good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Jim Clements, president of WVU. It's great to be here with you as we celebrate the critical role of nurses in modern healthcare. I can tell you personally, I appreciate what all of you do very, very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. I want to thank Dean Georgia Narsavage for initiating this dialogue today and for her outstanding leadership for our School of Nursing. Georgia is a national and international leader in the nursing profession. In fact, she is the 2009 Distinguished Practitioner, National Academies of Practice for Nursing. That's a really big deal. Can you guys help me congratulate her? Georgia, it's an honor to have you on our team.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Cynthia Pursley, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, for her outstanding work in leading our Charleston division. Cynthia, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Look forward to our discussion.
Thank you.
I also want to point out, I've been told that we have one of our former deans here, Loretta Geneb. Is Loretta here? Thank you for helping us to build a great program. It's great to see you, and I appreciate you taking the time to introduce yourself to me. It's good to have you here. I also want to thank all of you for being here, and for all of those viewing via webcast. I want to take another minute to point out a couple people. Although she is not here, I want to point out my friend, Dr. Jane Martin, who served as dean for 15 years and did just a great job and is a great colleague. We also have with us Fred Butcher. Fred, thank you for your leadership in the health sciences and for all that you do, and for all of our faculty and staff. You do a great job, and I personally am really proud of what you do. We're always happy to host special events at Blaney House. I want to take just a second to tell you a little bit about this house. The house is named in honor of Carolyn and Jerry Blaney, longtime supporters and good friends of the university. The room that we're gathered in is called Nutting Hall, and it's made possible through the generosity of Ogden Nutting and his family. It's just a wonderful room to have a special event like this. I want to just give you a couple personal thoughts, my views about the importance of nurses and what you do. From where I stand and what I see, what you do is just not a profession. It's really a way of life. It requires intelligence. It requires strength. It requires compassion and dedication. And anytime I've had the opportunity, and I guess maybe it's not an opportunity, but I've had people look after me and nurses taking care of me or my family. I'm so thankful every time I'm in that position and I see good people and what you do. The graduates of our program and the relationship of our academic program with the WVU hospitals is a key factor and something we're really proud of, and that's our Magnet Award for Nursing Excellence. That's a really big deal. This is an honor earned by less than 5% of the nation's 6,000 hospitals, less than 5% of the nation's 6,000 hospitals, given by the American Nurses Credentialing Center or the American Nurses Association. What an incredible comfort it is to know that we have this kind of quality right here in West Virginia, right here in Morgantown. And I can tell you I've witnessed it personally, luckily not on a life-threatening situation. Recently, when one of my twins, Hannah, who is 15, tore her ACL and meniscus and had to have surgery at Ruby Hospital, I can tell you the people were absolutely incredible. The care that she received, the kind of commitment and dedication that the nurses gave to her and to my entire family made me really proud to be here at WVU and with our association and with the people at the hospital. So for those of you who work at Ruby and the other hospitals, thank you for what you do. We have a lot to be proud of our nursing program. Earlier this year, I met with the School of Nursing's visiting committee, and I learned a lot about the school before we met. One of the things that I saw was that we have the largest grant in school history. It came in 2009, September, $600,000 to provide scholarships for BS nursing students. Largest grant in the history of the school. There's another data point I don't have in front of me, but Georgia helped me with this one. In the 50 years since the school was created, I'm going to try to go back a couple months on this point. We've graduated about 5,000 nurses, and about 2,800 or so practice in West Virginia. So could you imagine healthcare in West Virginia if we didn't have those 2,800 nurses that we have produced? It would be a pretty scary thought. But knowing we have those 2,800 here in West Virginia is very, very comforting. So I thank you and your colleagues for what you do. The graduation rate is 85% for the BSN program within 4 years, 90% within 5 years. First-time pass rate on the national exam, 89%, average over the last 4 years. In the BSBA to BSN program, first-time pass rate, 96% to 100% over the last 3 years. Those are significant numbers. Placement rates for those of our students who are looking for jobs when they graduate, 98 to 100% over the last 3 years. Amazing. Big accomplishments over the last 5 to 7 years. Implemented a PhD program in 2007. Implemented a DNP program in 2007. It was accredited in 2009. Earned full CCNE accreditation of the BSN, MSN, and DNP programs with all standards met, no areas at all, no areas of concern. That's not easy to do. That's a statement about quality that I'm very proud of. The MSN, Family Nurses Practitioner Program, was ranked as a top program by U.S. News and World Report in 2009. And just this past month, the entire school was ranked number 72 overall by U.S. News and World Report. That's a significant ranking and one of our highest rankings of all the academic programs we offer. As we celebrate the School of Nursing's 50th year, as well as National Nurses Week, we can all take pride in the fact that we've been providing state-of-the-art nursing education for more than a half a century. Our faculty are not only educating the next generation of nurses, but you are conducting important research and important public service to strengthen West Virginians' health and quality of life. I have been looking forward to this event. It's been on my calendar for quite some time, and I look forward to hearing the discussion, the perspectives, the challenges that you face, the rewards that you receive, and that the career offers you. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to Dean Narsavage and Dr. Pursley. And let me apologize in the beginning. I do need to slip out for a brief minute or two during the program, but I will be back. I thank you all for being here, and thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank all of you for coming, and thank you, President Clements, for hosting today. As we were planning our 50th anniversary celebration, and our chair, Suzanne Gross, was with our committee, and we were thinking, what else can we do to honor nursing? We've had some wonderful opportunities already to celebrate with you all, and we thought of, what about, is there a way we can bring nurses together to talk about why they want to be a nurse? And we said, why not? So we approached the president, and he said, sure, I'd look forward to it. This Nursing in West Virginia opportunity is especially important to us here during Nurses Week. And today starts that Nurses Week. We celebrate every year from May 6th to May 12th, National Nurses Week, during the week when Florence Nightingale's birthday is celebrated, our person that started modern nursing. And we'll be honoring the expanding role of nurses during this week because it's easy sometimes to forget the difference that we make as nurses. This week we're remembering, and the School of Nursing is envisioning the optimal health, enhanced quality of life, and excellent health care for West Virginia and the global community. President Clements, you covered many of the statistics, and the reason that we can do all of that is our wonderful faculty, students, graduates, and the nurses that our graduates all become, and the nurses in the community that we work with. I know you mentioned the magnet status, and we have the Vice President for Nursing here, Dottie Oakes. We're delighted to have you with us. So we're offering this forum in thanks to all of you, to all of our supporters who help us make a difference. Where would we be without you all, without our faculty, staff, preceptors, and our donors? And we have some of our donors here with us today too. The student scholarships that support the ability of any student to get an education. The faculty support of our work, particularly at Health Right with our faculty practice and Sam Cotton. Our faculty research funds. We've had more and more of our supporters setting up funding so that we can have faculty do research. And so now I'm going to move on to introduce Dr. Cindy Pursley, to share what a difference we make every day, why we are nurses. Dr. Pursley.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to come up behind the podium for just a moment for some introductory remarks to just talk a little bit about how we see the day going, but after that, it's all you. And so I'm going to be out there in the audience, and I've already alerted some of you, and some of you are hiding behind other people because you don't want to get called on, but that you can't hide. So, some of you have emailed me over the last few weeks and said, what is this all about? And what are we going to do? And what is this event that we're facilitating? And I have to be quite honest with you, I knew as little as you did when I was asked to do this. In fact, Suzanne Gross emailed me and said, would I be willing to do it? Dr. Narsavage said, would you do it? We're going to do it. And so I was directed to a website where there was a webcast called Why I Am a Cancer Researcher. And the Mary Bab Randolph Cancer Center did a similar event several years ago, I guess by now. And so I watched that event. And so I tried to think about, that was a really kind of narrowly focused event, why I am a cancer researcher. Whereas nursing is so much more global, and why I am a nurse is such a global topic. But then in thinking about it, and certainly in hearing Dr. Narsavage talk about the fact that this is Nurses Week and the fact that this is a part of our 50th anniversary celebration, I began to think, what would the purpose be of why I am a nurse, why I am a nurse forum? Today, this year, at this time in our history as nurses, and I started to think about the fact that, all of our stories not only talk about our past and what we've been through, but it helps us in a time when we need more nurses. And even though we have 5,000 graduates of the School of Nursing, if we had 5,000 more this year, it would be a big help in West Virginia and certainly in the country. So not only does it help us understand our past, but it also helps us encourage other people by talking about what our vision is of the future. And so what I hope that you'll do today is think about this event as an opportunity for us to collectively tell our stories to help to envision what our future can be as nurses. And I think that at this time in our history, this is the perfect time for us to be talking about what our vision is for the future. We're at sort of the cusp of a real historic moment in healthcare. We don't know what healthcare is going to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years down the line, but we know it's going to look different than it is today. And so how, as nurses, are we positioned now, but are we also positioning ourselves for the future to be able to be ready to provide the care that we know that patients deserve? How are we going to be positioned to be able to provide that care for the future? So that's what I hope our stories help us to tell today, that it tells about our history and where we've come from, but it also helps us collectively envision what our future looks like. So I thought I should, as a teacher, I should define what a vision is. So I have written down here for myself. What is a vision? It's a compelling image of the preferred future. So what does the future look like? It sets out the group's highest aspirations. And what better group to start to talk about what nursing's highest aspirations are here at West Virginia University, in West Virginia, and in fact in the world. And then it's also an inspirational force that pulls us all toward the envisioned future. So I hope that you'll take those kind of thoughts. This is what the stories are supposed to do. It's helping move us toward what we would tell someone who's choosing nursing as a career today about what our future can look like based on what our stories are. Does that make sense? Okay, so given that, I'm going to start you with a quote, and then I'm going to ask the first question, so get ready. I have a quote because I think it sets the context, and it's from Clement Bezold, who's a futurist, and he says, "A vision is a future for the heart." And I thought that that really is an important way to start telling our stories about being a nurse. So I'm going to start with the first question, and I'm going to ask you to volunteer. And if you don't volunteer, I'll call on people. Why do you do what you do? Everyone here has a different role. We have faculty, we have students, we have nurses who serve in a variety of roles, we have researchers, we have advanced practice nurses, we have nurses who work in staff roles, we have nurses who are retired from the practice of nursing, the paid practice of nursing. So why is it that you do what you do? That's my question. Now I'm looking for hands. Who wants to start? Okay. Can you first, ground rules, I forgot the ground rules. Stand up, good job. Say your name and your role, whether if you're working as a nurse or if you're a student, if you're a graduate student, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Dawn Miller. I work as a nurse at Mon General Hospital. I kind of was the non-traditional student. I went much later to school. I've been a nurse for about 7 years now. The one thing that stood out to me to do what I wanted to do was compassion, caring for others, you know, the typical thing that most nurses go into this for. And one of the reasons I stay is for that same thing. Usually when people come to the hospital, any family member, I don't care how educated you are or not educated, you're scared. So the first thing to do is to comfort them, to make them understand that you're going to take care of them, that you're going to see their needs, that you're knowledgeable, that you know what you're doing, and to make them feel comfortable, and that's why I still do it. And I want to stay a staff nurse as long as I can and physically able, because I found out it's very hard. And it's very hard on your body for 12 hours to be doing what you do, and that's why I stay. If anybody can help with the documentation now, because that's getting to be a lot.
Well, we'll mark that on the parking lot of what to do for the future. How do we work on that issue of documentation? So caring, I mean, what it really boils down to is that whole idea of caring and being smart, right? Being smart. So you got to be a smart person to come into this,
Confident
right?
in your ability to take care of them.
Good. Thank you for sharing. And someone else. Why do you do what you do? Okay, if I have to start calling this early. Dottie, yes, thank you. I'm going to run out of people to call on. Go ahead.
A little bit of pressure here.
There you go. There's the microphone. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Dottie Oakes. I'm the Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer at West Virginia University Hospitals. And I see many wonderful, familiar faces in here, and I know why you're nurses. I think we're nurses because we care about people. And people include, we say patients, but it's people. Because our patients include our patients, their families, their friends. It includes everyone. So that's what we do. And what we do for a living is hard. When you said that it's really a taxing and challenging profession, it is, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. But I think we come up to the challenge, and I think our future in healthcare is going to be bright.
Thank you. Thanks, Dottie. Who else? How about a faculty member? Now, see, I know all the faculty members' names, which is dangerous. Gail, thank you. We need a microphone over here for Gail. Thank you.
I'm Gail Van Boris, and I am on faculty here at WVU School of Nursing. I'm about 13 years in, and if you told me before I would be teaching nursing, I would have said, you're crazy. I had no ambition to become an instructor. I was working on my master's and started kind of helping out as a GA, and I love it. I like it when the light bulb goes off and somebody gets something. I said when I was 9 years old I was going to be a nice nurse and take care of children because I had a really mean nurse, and I have never wavered from that. And working with the kids in the clinical on the pediatric floor, working with them in the classroom, it's an amazing relationship, and I see them constantly. I love it because there's so many at WVU and Mon General. I don't turn a corner without seeing a face that we've taught. And I teach because I want people there to take care of me when I'm older. And recently with my father in the ICU, I was drained, and the nurse that took care of him was one of our students. And I went home and went to sleep. for the first time. So it's a good job.
Thank you, Gail. Who else? Why do you do? Freddie, we need a microphone over here. Thank you. We're giving you a workout.
My guide has been all my life. I live for those who love me, for those who know me true, for the blue skies above me and the good that I can do. And I went into nursing because, well, my father said I couldn't go into the way that I wanted to live my life. I was going to be a lawyer. With all due respect to all lawyers, that was the 40s, and women could not be lawyers. And my father and his friend, who was a lawyer, talked with me and said, you need to pick another occupation. And so I did. And I picked nursing because I saw it as an opportunity to help people in ways that they couldn't help themselves, because they either didn't have the information, they didn't have the finances, or they didn't have the ability with their own physical parts to know what to do. And I saw how I could do that in the nursing field, and so that's why I went into nursing. And why did I go into education? Because, now, let me say, I've been in nursing for 55 years. I'm sorry?
But tell your name and your relationship to it.
I'm Fredona Stanger. I'm a undergraduate from West Virginia, from University of Virginia, and had got my master's work at Boston University.
And you were one of our first faculty.
And
right?
I've been on the faculty, was on the faculty. I am now retired, but was on the faculty since 1962. When I came here, I was teaching at Duke at the time I came here, and decided this was a program that I could fulfill what my goal was in life, and it has been that for me. And I went into education because I finally realized I could do more helping other people learn how to do what I wanted to do than doing it myself. And I think for many of you who have been my students, as you have spoken to me during this 50th anniversary and told me of the things that I've helped you with, you've really made me feel very good.
Thank you, Freddie.
That's why I'm a nurse.
Thank you for sharing that. How about an advanced practice nurse? I'm going to look right there in the front row. There's somebody, Sam Cotton. Would you like to put your phone down and share what you...
That's what I worked on.
So you drew attention to yourself.
Yeah. I'm Sandra Cotton. Everyone calls me Sam. I went into nursing, like most have already expressed, to be able to help others for altruistic reasons. I really stayed in nursing, and I actually went back and got a bachelor's degree because I wasn't bachelor's prepared for my initial School of Nursing program, and went to WVU through the Charleston division, and went back to get a bachelor's because I was in the military. And they would not recognize us as officers and nurses if we didn't have a baccalaureate degree from an NLN accredited school. So I actually started at the university, Ohio University in Athens, and they did not receive accreditation, and I said, bye-bye. And I found WVU in Charleston. I was able to work, and I have very fond memories of the faculty there who were very inspirational in helping me launch my nursing career as a bachelor's prepared nurse. And as I went on through nursing and have been really fortunate over the years to serve many different positions, one was at Johns Hopkins with the AIDS Clinical Trials Unit, and I was really, really impressed with the work that the frontline nurses were doing in the AIDS epidemic, and in particular the advanced practice nurses who were seeing patients with research protocols, doing the physicals. I was a research nurse, and I was doing some of that, but not at the level that the advanced practice nurses were doing, and they were just amazing. And I said, I want to be that. And so I was able to go back to graduate school and stay in the military too. And I think my big driving force for staying in the military as a registered nurse has been because our soldiers deserve good health care. And I think I've been able to do that well. So I've been very fortunate. And with regards to healthcare reform, I'll just say with regards to the population that I'm fortunate enough to serve with at Health Right, that population is the majority of us here, they're one paycheck away from medical bankruptcy if we would have a catastrophic illness. I've met many people who live all the walks of life and who just, for unfortunate reasons have had really bad health events happen that have made their family indigent and not eligible for other care. And our hospitals and the nurses who serve the patients that we send to the emergency departments, because we have very limited services there, I hope that changes in the future, that there won't be a need for a place like Health Right, where we'll all have access to health care no matter what walk of life we come from.
And thank you for everything that you do, Sam. How about someone who does research? How about Susie, Walter? You want to talk a little bit? Starting to get into some combined roles. The microphone's right behind you.
Okay,
just introduce yourself and say what you do.
I'm Susie Walter. I'm a nurse practitioner. I work in pediatric neurology at WVU, and I earned my doctorate in December, my PhD, and I started doing research with adolescents with headaches. When I first started working in neurology, we would see all these children with headaches, and you'd see them one day, start a medicine, but it was always call after call, increasing the meds. And we just never really helped until I finally started doing some research and we started hearing things about daily habits. And once I started reading up on this and learning more about how adolescents really take care of themselves now, it became a real important aspect in treating headaches. It wasn't just the medication, it was just how adolescents and teens live now. They don't feel like they need to sleep anymore. No one drinks water, heaven forbid, and kids don't eat, and then they wonder why they're sick. So my research really helped me in my practice and helped to, I think, improve outcomes in some of these adolescents. And so when you talk about why nursing is so fulfilling, one girl who came in who was having chronic headaches, and finally we told her just these simple things, it's all you need to do. She came back and she was better, and as they left, the mom looked at me, she thanked me and hugged me. And so it was just something just as simple as lifestyle. And so my research really helped to build my practice and give me confidence that what we were doing was right. So,
Good.
Very fortunate.
Dean Savage, you want to talk about how nursing research should inform practice? Why don't you talk about that for a moment, and then we'll go on to some other questions.
Well, I think that the reason that we've been focusing so much on research in nursing is because as nurse researchers, we can make a difference in patient care. My work has been with my colleague Kathy Chen in looking at chronic lung patients in home care, and it started a long time ago. I got into it with a master's faculty member who said, you know what, you can't just do the details. You've got to get out there and see the bigger picture. So pick a concept and do it. And I lived in a coal mining town, and we had a lot of patients in the hospital with black lung disease, just as we do here in West Virginia. And so I said, how about oxygenation? It's always fascinated me. So I went into the hospital, and what she had us do was not just look up the numbers, but talk to people. And I interviewed a lot of people that had lung disease and minors that were suffering from black lung. And what they told me was, you know what, I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm going to just deal with it. And there would be other rooms where they'd say, oh, my life is over, I just can't do anything. And if I looked at the chart, at the numbers, their statistics were the same. In terms of their lung volume, their oxygen saturations, these were the same. And here's somebody just sitting around and somebody. So it started me on the path that I've been doing for about 20 years now of trying to help patients develop a sense of control that they can make a difference. And so in applying that, we've actually moved it into some settings. And one of my positions, we worked with smoking cessation and helping people understand that they could control their lives, that it wasn't the nicotine that was going to control them. So again, moving some of that method. So I think that as we do it, we need to look at what's the way that we can apply it. And some of it is publishing in journals that are read by our colleagues that are working in hospitals and other settings, and also in our research journals. But if we don't make that connection from the laboratory, if it's basic science, or from the research piece that we're doing into actually changing practice, I don't think we've done true nursing research. I think it's got to follow through and make a difference in practice.
Impacts patient care.
Absolutely.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Pam, I'm looking right at you. Talk about why you do what you do, because you are a pediatric nurse practitioner and also teach and guide a program. And there's the microphone, and introduce yourself.
I'm Pam DeRicci. I'm coordinator of the Pediatric Nurse Practitioner Program at WVU. Why do I do what I do? Well, just hearing people speak today, I look at Susie Walter, there's Jennifer Straffus, and there. So I'm looking around the room and realizing how people, students that I've had previously, take me on into the work, and I depend on that for my feeling of fulfillment as a nurse. You know that Johnson & Johnson commercial,
Yes.
How can a nurse be in Chicago doing this? Well, that's, I think, a lot of the meaning that as faculty members we get, because not being at the bedside as much as I would like to be, or at the clinic side, our students, previous students, do take us there, I hope.
Thank you. How about our school nurse representative? Working with children? Make sure you introduce yourself
I knew you were going to
first.
call on me. I just had that feeling.
Of course.
I'm Carol Ward. I'm a school nurse, and I've been a nurse actually for 28 years, but a school nurse for 11. As I was sitting here thinking, I feel it's a calling. Each one of us are called to be a nurse, or we wouldn't be a nurse. Each one of us have our own gifts that we give our patients. Whether it's the gift of compassion, the gift of just gabbing with them to ease whatever their stress level may be. I do pediatric nursing also in the summer at Ruby, so I get the clinical part of it as well as my school nursing. As we were sitting here talking a while ago, it's a different type of nursing. The need for the kind of care that you give those students on a daily basis it's astronomical in what they need. Whether it's a health need, whether it's just a hug, whether it's even food that you can help provide them, it's a whole different aspect of nursing that, again, I feel that actually God moved mountains for me to have that job, so I am very blessed that I am able to provide what I do as a school nurse.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for what you do for our children. It's so important that we have nurses in schools and that we have nurses in many, many different places. So how about Chad? You made the mistake of introducing yourself to me earlier. Wouldn't have known you. Wouldn't have been able to call on you, but males are still underrepresented in nursing, but you've chosen nursing, and you told me earlier you were going to seek graduate education. So talk to us about why you do and why you chose nursing and what you would tell other males who are choosing nursing. Caught you off guard, I'm sorry.
Not much of a public speaker. I don't believe many people believe that, but
Where do you work?
intensive care unit, MISI in Ruby, for 9 years. Grew up, my dad was in the coal mine, told me my brother we weren't allowed to go anywhere near a coal mine, so we'd choose a different profession. Came here, played baseball here, didn't like it that much. Had to choose a profession, choose nursing. A couple of guys I was rooming with started, and I just went as well. And fell in love with it. I have a compassion, a drive for it now. I look to further my education. I want to be certified as much as possible, have as much education as I can get. This all has come through me for the last couple of years. Very satisfied as a bedside nurse, but I think there's a lot more I can provide. I think that I have a passion and drive to help and do things. So I think if I can educate myself and advance, it would be also help some other people. As for men going into the field, I tell everybody, I have friends in different professions who love it but don't like it. It's a paycheck for them. There's jobs out there for you if you're a male. It don't really see that aspect of it a whole lot, male-female thing. But I think it's a great profession. I mean, it's just, you're there to help, you're there to care, and you're in compassion. So.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for what you do. Okay, we have time for one more answer to that question of why you do what you do. Laurie Tiki, since we've talked a lot about pediatrics, let's go to the other end of the scale with geriatrics. And as a faculty member and a researcher and a practitioner, talk a little bit about why you do what you do.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to say, Chad, come on. We're ready for you at the School of Nursing. So my earliest memory of nursing is actually my mother putting her cap on. And I remember as a young girl thinking that uniform was very cool. But I had no idea what she did when she got there. So my family very much believes that a meaningful life is a life of service, and I think nursing is consistent with that. So as I grew up, I thought nursing fits with my life philosophy. And after 15 years of advanced practice, working full-time, I thought there's more I can do. And so I decided to pursue doctoral education. Susie was in my class. We struggled on through that, and I developed a research interest in geriatrics, some of that based on the care I gave my grandparents. So I think I mainly do it because I think it's consistent with my life values of serving others and trying to contribute to making the world better, in my case, for older people.
And the beauty of nursing, Laurie, I think, is really that you can do that regardless of the role that you're in. Whether you're in a faculty role or you're caring for patients in the Family Medicine Center or you're doing your research on the topic of loneliness and older adults. So thank you.
Yes, some of my graduate students from the research class are here, and I hope that, I think they were well served. Hi, Bethany. I think they were well served, and that was part of why I left practice full-time also, was to teach a little bit. You start to realize that if you don't take what you've learned and teach someone else, then you're not really leaving enough with the profession.
Good. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. And then, I said that was the last one, but now that you brought up graduate students, I need to call on one of my graduate students. So, Tracy, I'm going to call on you because no, Bethany, you're safe this time, but I'll get you next time. Tracy, you chose nursing as a second career, right? And Tracy was a graduate of our BA, BS to BSN program, so she came to nursing from a different path.
I actually chose nursing as my fourth career because I found a pattern in my life that after about 5 years in a career, I would have learned all I felt that there was to learn, and I would have advanced as far as I could advance and realized that I was bored with my profession and didn't want to continue doing day in and day out the very same thing. And I thought my grandmother, who was an LPN her whole life, who I thought also was a superhero, that I would come to med school, but she wouldn't ever have dreamed of having a physician that didn't, in her family, that didn't have an undergraduate in nursing, because she thought that every doctor should fully understand the role of a nurse. So initially I came... So initially my idea was to come into nursing to appease my grandmother to get into med school. And it didn't take me long. It took me just a few semesters interacting with patients to see a nurse's role and to see a physician's role, to recognize the value of both, but to understand what I hoped to do and the way I wanted to live my life was in the nursing role. That it was that physicians, I have great respect for them, and I'm a co-worker of them and a professional that we work day in and day out, and have an immense amount of respect for that role. But I don't think that they do what I had always dreamed of doing. I come from a family of ministers, and I think that nursing is a ministry role. And although my mother, I thought, would never be happy unless I was a minister, I think after my dad was in the hospital with an extensive illness recently, she understands that I am a minister in my own right now, and that at bedside there is a definite role there of ministry. And so in nursing, I love the humanity of it. I love that although we're dealing with the health, and I think that an MD's focus is so
directed on health and the individual, but the humanity is what nursing bridges. They take the health aspect of it and take it to the patient. And it's a beautiful role. I love every day that I've been at work, no matter how stressful, no matter how frustrating or how wonderful it has been. It's a rewarding profession, and it is what I continue to do day in and day out. I'm hoping to advance my career. I hope to teach. I'm in grad school now, and I'm hoping to teach because the instructors I had so influenced me. And I see Dorothy here. I think I admit my only B in undergraduate nursing was in psych nursing. It's still a very sore spot for me. It was in Susan and Dorothy's psych nursing course, and I worked my tail off. I studied more for that course than anything else. But and although I couldn't seem to grasp the theoretical concepts of psych nursing, I recognized the beauty of the psychology aspect of nursing. And every day I think of Dorothy. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of something Dorothy said to me in a psych clinical, about reacting and responding to people and their needs. And I think if any of you have ever just interacted with Dorothy in a conversation, that she's such a wonderful listener, and I walk away leaving her saying, once again, she has not said a word. I talked the entire time. And so I model my nursing practice after skills like that I try to listen to my patients. I try to be what she's been, and I hope someday to have that influence over students as well.
Thank you, Tracy. And while this is Tracy's 4th career, we hope that this will be your last career. Thank you for being here and for what you're doing. I'm going to go on to another question, and I'm going to take a little poll before I ask the question. And the question is, how many of you are from West Virginia? Okay. All right. And how many of you work in West Virginia? Okay. All right. So how many of you are from West Virginia and work in West Virginia? All right, so I'm narrowing down my pool for questions. So I'll go to Libby. Libby, why? There you go. You shouldn't have raised your hand for that last one. So why is it that you do what you do in West Virginia? And since you haven't told what you do, you need to say that first. But why do you do what you do in West Virginia? Because we do have great needs, but there are a lot of people who graduate from our programs in West Virginia who still leave the state, and especially our young people who leave the state to go find work elsewhere. So Libby, why don't you start us with that?
Okay. Well, I'm Libby Hupp, and I was an RN student when I came to school here and got my BSN. And I never thought of actually leaving West Virginia to go anywhere else. And when I finished my BSN, this particular job, which I've been in now for almost 27 years, became a new job, and I was the first kind of a nurse to be in a job like that, which I worked for the cardiac surgeons at the university. So for me, it was an opportunity to learn a lot more. I was an ICU nurse, and I loved taking care of the patients who'd had heart surgery, both adults as well as children. So for me, it was a perfect opportunity to kind of be taken under their wing, learn a lot, and in addition, I've also been privileged to do some classes for the nurses, both at Ruby and then, across the state and things like that, as far as what heart surgery is and what the patients go through. So for me, if there was never an option of leaving to go anywhere else. My family is from West Virginia. My father's a graduate of West Virginia University, so is my sister. So, this was the place I wanted to be.
Good,
and I've
thank
just
you. So
stayed here.
opportunities abound, right?
Absolutely.
In West Virginia.
Yeah.
I know that you do global work too, though. And so what motivated you to leave West Virginia to do this volunteer work in the global arena?
Okay, well, what George is referring to is that I've been involved since 1987 with a group called Interplast, which was out of California. Dr. David Fogarty, who is a plastic surgeon here, a graduate of WVU, when he came back to West Virginia, he wanted to get local people involved, and so I had the fortune to be able to go on a trip in 1987. I just got back from my 21st trip to Ecuador, and it's just one of those things where you go and you don't have to worry about the documentation. You do. I mean, you do. But you go and you take care of the children and the families, and even though you don't speak the language, you can still do a lot of communication with your eyes and your hands, and a lot of pointing going on. And to work with the people in the other cultures, learn about them, and don't go in there as the person trying to tell them everything, but also learn from them while you're there. So I had the opportunity to do that, and it's mostly caring for lips cleft lips, palates, and burns.
Right.
So,
great, good. Thank you. How about others? Why is it that you do what you do in West Virginia? Maybe some of you who came from someplace else or came from here and left and came back? Someone?
Hi, I'm Mary Oliverio Brown, and when I was in kindergarten, my youngest brother was born, and his name's Frank Oliverio, and he was a tetralogy of Fallot baby, and that means he was a blue baby, and he needed to have heart surgery. So ever since I could remember, he's been a WVU success, and I always knew that I wanted to be a nurse. He's now a lawyer, and he works with he's a development director, and he works with the MAC, which is the Mountaineer Athletic Club, and he fortunately is blessed with 2 healthy children. So I always loved babies and always had a passion for children. I went to WVU School of Nursing, and I got to be in the marching band, and that year we marched 303, and I got to be in the band with my 2 other brothers, who are Joe Oliverio, who's a principal in Parkersburg, and Mike Oliverio, who is your state senator. And I just had a great experience and became a pediatric nurse at WVU Hospital. And my dad, Mike Oliverio, and mom and I and a whole crew of people started the Ronald McDonald House. I moved to Richmond, Virginia, and worked in pediatricians' offices there. And then I said, what I decided to call it was home health nursing, and I became a mom and have 2 teenagers. But nursing was a great profession before becoming a mom. Now I am a school nurse, and I have over 1,000 children that I'm responsible for every day. And I also work on call at Mon General on the obstetric unit. So I say I have the sickest people at school, but the wellest people in the hospital, which is a great combination. And I've always had the best jobs in the world. And our J.C. Creed said that service to humanity is the best work of life, which fits with nursing. And I decided that nurse is really an acronym. The N is for nurturing, the U is for understanding, the R is for responsibility, S is for sensitivity, and E is for education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary. And thanks for coming back to West Virginia. Thanks for coming back to West Virginia. That's right. How about someone who isn't from West Virginia? Well, that would be me. I'm not from West Virginia. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Philadelphia. So we moved here for 2 years, 17 years ago. So there's something about West Virginia. Either we're very lazy, which some days we're very lazy, or we love it. And I think most days it's because we love it. And why do we love it? First of all, as a nurse, I was able to come here and really use my skills in a variety of different ways. So I was able to, I had been a faculty member in Philadelphia. I was able to come here and be a faculty member. I was an advanced practice nurse, and I was able to come here and start a practice in a rural health clinic. Now, I left a practice in inner city Philadelphia. I cared for poor women in West Philadelphia who had high-risk pregnancies. And I went to Cabin Creek, West Virginia, and cared for poor women who had high-risk pregnancies. And while the color of their skin or their dialect was different, their issues were the same. And so I was able to care for those women using what I had learned in Philadelphia and use those skills in West Virginia. I was also able to do research, and I was able to teach students in my clinic, and so I was able to take on all of those roles. And being a nurse, I think this is the beauty of it. You can do it wherever you are, and you can use all of those skills wherever you are. And West Virginia is just such a wonderful, nurturing, caring place to be a caregiver. And so that's why we're still here. Dean Savage, what attracted you to West Virginia?
I think it's the people. When I came for my interview and met people that were talking about the rural health program and the service nature and the dedication to our people in West Virginia, you can't turn that away. I mean, it really touches the heart. And the people here are so wonderful that they appreciate everything we can possibly do, but it's not just that. They also want to make things better for themselves. And so when you see their dedication to improving their own lives, I think it gives us opportunities. You also have a role as Deputy Director for the Rural Health, which is something that you'll have to explain it, but it isn't something that we normally think of nursing doing. Do you want to?
We, at West Virginia University, we have one of only 6 of the funded rural health research centers in the country. And we were just recently funded for that center about 2 years ago. We're entering our 3rd year. And I'm the deputy director of that center. The director is Dr. Michael Hendricks, who is with the Department of Community Medicine, not a physician, a health policy researcher. The rural health research centers that are funded by HRSA are funded out of the Office of Rural Health Policy, and so they're really designed to answer policy questions that affect rural people. And so I had done a fair amount of policy work in Pennsylvania, and in fact in my doctoral program, my minor per se was health and social policy. And so this has allowed me in West Virginia to take my experience and also take it one step further and start to look at not only what are the care needs at the clinic level or at the bedside level, but start to look at the population needs and how health policy can begin to be driven so that it's sensitive to the needs of rural people. We have a particular focus at our Rural Health Research Center that is on environmental health. And environmental health we define very broadly to mean anything that is in the environment that affects health. And that's the social environment as well as the physical and built environment. So it includes everything from food availability to pollution sources to the physical environment and how it may facilitate health, like are there areas where people can walk? Things that are near and dear to nursing's heart are all things that I'm able to help to influence and help to mentor students in and be able to, on the bigger picture, be able to influence health policy. So for me, that's been a great opportunity to use my skills in West Virginia. And in fact, our research is on a national scope. And so we are able to influence policy for all rural people. And so that's been an exciting opportunity here in West Virginia.
It just emphasizes the breadth of nursing.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to go on to a question that might be maybe one word or a couple of words, or you might have a story about it. And I want you to tell me what inspires you as a nurse or who inspires you as a nurse. So, does anyone want to volunteer or do I need to? Oh, great. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Brotherton. I'm a nurse in the BMTU here at Ruby. The reason I became a nurse was my stepmother. She's a CRNA, amazing woman. The stuff that she can do is just, so I thought I'll go be a nurse. I'll do what she does. Found out I can't stand the OR. And I got into oncology because my stepmother is a 24-year breast cancer survivor, which is an awesome thing. And I initially started on 9 West, the oncology unit, and said, I'm scared of bone marrow. I don't like it back there. Love it now. And just the patients that we get to take care of there and their unique needs, it's wonderful.
Good. Thank you. So who else? Over here? Microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Johnson. I am a clinical preceptor of the Neurology and Neurosurgery Acute Care and Step-Down Unit at Ruby, 9 East. And I'm a West Virginia girl. I'm from southern West Virginia, and my mother was a nurse, and she is probably the reason that I became a nurse. I just remember, she was a single mom, and she worked full-time to put herself through LPN school, taking care of me and my sister by herself. And then while she was in LPN, she worked night shift full-time and put herself through RN school. And I just remember just how hard she worked just was amazing to me, really inspired me. And the thing too was I was always so proud because I would be at church or at, a store or something, and someone would come up to me and say, "Your mom is just the best nurse." She just took such good care of me, like she was giving them some special treatment or something. And I knew she took care of everyone the same way, but had this ability to make people feel like they were special, or she took special care of them. And I was always so proud. Well, when I came to WVU, I was not a nursing major. I got an academic scholarship, and I was expected to do something really huge. My mom did not want us to struggle financially the way she had. And I changed my major to nursing first, then I called my mom. And I said, "I'm going to be a nurse, Mom, just like you," thinking, she'd be proud or flattered. And she said, "What? What are you doing? Have you not been listening to me?" And I know she was referring to how hard she worked and the humble paycheck and that, but it's just the little victories that inspire you along the way. I know my mom's really proud of me now because, and it was hard. I mean, I had no idea how hard it was going to be and how challenging it was going to be. But, along the way, there's those little victories, like the person, you walk into Walmart, somebody calling you by name, you're going, "Who is this person?" And, it's a patient. You don't remember their name and you don't remember their diagnosis, and they weren't one of those patients that you often meet that you just make this connection with, the ones you never forget. But somehow you did something that obviously really impacted them, and that is always a victory and very inspiring. And I think too, what inspires me is I learn something new every day. And when I was a new nurse, I used to say that all the time. "Boy, I learn something new here every day." And thinking like, someday I would know it all and that would wear off or something. But it's not that way in nursing. You do learn something new every day, and that's always stimulating, I think. And then the people you work with. That's another thing that inspires you every day. I'm very blessed. I have a job that I have the best of both worlds. I have patient care. I also do education, and I get to do leadership stuff, and I'm involved in the research utilization, and I have the best job, and I work with great people. My director, she's like this visionary. She's like sees things like a big, I don't know, like up here somewhere, and we're thinking. And then somehow, like as a team, step by step, we make it happen. And, she has the vision. And, my manager, she's just like a really hardworking person. She just has these high expectations every day. She holds us to a high standard. It drives us forward. Dottie Oakes, she can make you feel like an elite group because you're a nurse, just when she talks. And, the heroes are the ones at the bedside. They're out there every day taking care of these people. In neurology and neurosurgery, it's not like you come in having a heart attack and we save your life and you're all better now. You're getting a life-changing event, a diagnosis that's hard to hear. And, these people at the bedside every day are making that better for these patients and these families with their knowledge, their experts, their compassion, their caring, and that's very inspiring. And then, of course, the patients, the people that you deal with and you see in Walmart, or they come up to the floor for their clinic visit. "Hey, look at me, I'm doing okay." And you're just like, oh, you got to see them, in the recovery phase. And it's so many aspects that inspire you and keep you in nursing every single day.
Thank you. And it's passion like that that inspires me. Absolutely. To hear passionate nurses and every day providing care to a variety of different groups and being inspired by everyone. And that's great. Who else? Yes. Of course you can. Please do.
My name is Mike Oliverio, and sitting here, I'm seeing all of you really enjoying your friendship and the great work that you do. But I think it is necessary that you have something from another perspective. And I'd like to provide that to you before I have to leave. First of all, I taught school for about 5 years. I taught physics and chemistry. But then I went into the greatest profession in the world next to nursing, vocational rehabilitation, and worked with hospitals and patients, and did all of the rural West Virginia. I chaired the Klingberg Development Center at the University Hospital, started that after Dr. Klingberg left, and with Dr. Neal, started the Ronald McDonald House. But what I wanted to say to you is this. I've gone through 3 careers, and I've begged some of the others in here and Mary to let me come in now that I'm retired and be a union boss or a union steward for nurses, because I was thoroughly convinced in those 40 years that you don't get the respect, the remuneration that you fully deserve. And I know some of you are well taken care of, but you really, really do a magnificent job, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. The other thing I want to share with you is I think you have to realize what you do for a patient, and the patient realizes it. We set up a trust and opened up a couple of rooms. My wife passed away with ovarian cancer in 2007, but I think sometimes you don't really realize what you mean to the family members. I'd like to share something with you, not to be emotional about it, but one of the last times I checked Julie into the hospital, the nurse, who was very tender and caring, said, "Do you have anything valuable you want to register?" And I said, "Young lady, don't want to take anything away from you, but the most valuable thing I've ever had in my life is in that bed." And this is the kind of thing that you do daily. I've seen you at the end of the shift when you get a little frustrated and things don't go exactly the way you want to. But remember, when you walk out of there, you make a difference. I was able to put at Mon General a PA system that plays piano music as you're leaving the hospital, because I've walked out of the hospital too many times to a dark parking lot. So let me share with you, we've had some great care. Some of you have helped with Frank with his 2 surgeries. Back in those days, it was tetralogy, it was a shunt, and then the full procedure. With other surgeries we've had in the family, you are, without question, the greatest profession in the world. You're sitting right at the right hand there, and believe me, if anyone doubts that, Mary will give you my phone number, please. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I don't think any of us could have said it better than what Mr. Oliverio said. So now I've lost my place of where we are. Okay, I'm going to go to a different topic, because I'm looking at my watch and realize that we only, believe it or not, have about 25 minutes left. I'm going to go to a topic of, again, the value of telling our stories and where we've come from, and ask how nursing has changed over the course of your career. And I'll start, how about Dean Janab? Would you like to start with that? How nursing has changed over the course of your career? The microphone is there.
Thank you. You should have asked me that 18 years ago when I retired, because now I'm in the elderly camp and forgetful. I've got to, if I can take the time to go back to your question too, of why you stayed in West Virginia, or what brought you to West Virginia and so forth. I've told many of you this, but it comes to mind so often in meetings like this, and when I'm traveling and visiting with shut-ins and elderly people in the home, in their homes, my full-time work since I retired. But when I was one semester, within 3 credit hours of completing my master's degree in Western Reserve University in 1954, my advisor had taught the class that I was leaving, and she said, do you have another class this next hour? And I said, no. And, well, would you stop in my office for a few moments? And even though I was that advanced, I thought, now what have I done wrong? And when we get in there, she starts shuffling papers on her desk and said, there are 2 hospitals in Cleveland that are looking for a nurse with a master's degree that you would be eligible for. And if if you would just go and make an informal visit, you don't have to make an application or anything. Just go through and make your observations and let me know which one you prefer. You have the job. And I said, oh, thank you very much, but I'm going back to West Virginia. West Virginia? Whatever for? And I had the most wonderful 24 years of service through WVU and 12 years at Alderson Broaddus College before that, and have never regretted a moment of it. And I was sitting here thinking, I wish she could be here today, and I could tell her what was wonderful about West Virginia.
Right.
But in 1954, for someone so close, adjacent state to make such a statement, she was really a very fine advisor and a professor of that class, but I should have claimed an advanced degree on that comment she made. Well, probably
That would
not.
be my guess.
Yeah, that's probably true. So those of you who were not born here but have come here, and I'm hearing your testimony as to how Cynthia, you and so many others have absorbed the very best, both in our state and in the School of Nursing. Thank you for all of your comments here today. It's been the most rewarding afternoon I've had in a long time.
Thank you. Thanks. Who else would like to share how nursing has changed during the course of their career? And Judy Pollock, I just saw it pointing to Judy. Judy, why don't you talk a little, introduce yourself first.
I'm Judy Pollock. I'm a neonatal nurse practitioner, and I also teach in the School of Nursing. I came from a mother who was a diploma nurse, Wheeling Hospital. I did not grow up in West Virginia, but I had family from here. And when I applied to WVU and wanted to be that out-of-state nursing student, we had many discussions about diploma versus baccalaureate nursing, and I was never, and she told me this, never going to be the kind of nurse she was. So, never. So I graduated I came in the mid-70s. At that time, there was a newness in some expanded roles in nursing, but nursing still was pretty much at the bedside. And fate took me to the newborn intensive care unit, and I started working there. And my first year, I made $4,800 in a year. I probably make that in less than a month right now. $4,800, I remember that. And what we were allowed to do at that point was basic assessment skills. There were no IVs. Nurses did not put in IVs until I was later in my career. And I remember we did a lot, I'm sure you'll be surprised by this, we did a lot of stuff under the carpet in there, and me included. And, we were doing art sticks, and I remember the house supervisor came in one time, and we were doing an art stick, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And we said, "We're holding this for the doctor." And she goes, "Okay," and she left the room. So it was really in the 70s and early 80s where more advanced assessment skills, procedural skills, and those kind of roles came in. So I started out as a transport nurse. I became a neonatal nurse practitioner at that point. And when I look at what I am doing now in that intensive care unit and what I did 30 years ago, it's like light and day. So the first time I took my mother back to the newborn intensive care unit and showed her what I did and the patients that I take care of and the impact that I have on these babies' lives. I mean, I work with the smallest of small. I remember saving our first 1,000 grammer, 2.2 pounds. Those babies now have a 99.9% chance of making it intact, normal children. We're saving 300 and some odd grammars now. I just won't say anything about whether that's okay or not at this point. But when I took her back and showed her what I did, my baccalaureate degree then was okay. So I was the kind of nurse that she was going to be. And I think, and we watched this change over the years about what we can do as a nurse. and what we were not allowed to do. And so for you young people, it's going to be the same kind of thing. In 20 and 30 years, you all are going to be doing things beyond what we ever thought about 30 years ago.
Good. Thank you, Judy. Certainly the independence and autonomy is a perfect example. Yes, stand up, introduce yourself, and there's a mic.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Straffis. I work in the Children's Hospital Infusion Center, but after listening to Judy, I can kind of tell you my story a little bit. When I was a senior in high school, my sister became pregnant with her first child, and she had her daughter at 26 weeks and was probably one of those wee little, less than 2 pounds, and was in the very old NICU that was like beds, yeah, in that little tiny closet. And I worked at the Health Sciences Library at the time. And at that time also, the only people allowed in were parents and grandparents. But every night when I got off at like 11:30 or midnight, the nurses would let me sneak in and spend time with my niece. And I fell in love, and that's how I became a nurse, because that's what I wanted to do. But then I went to general pediatrics instead of NICU. And we're glad you're here. 18 years later, so.
Very great. Good. Thank you. Susan, right behind you with the microphone. We'll try to keep you from walking so much.
I'm Susan McCrone, and I have multiple roles. I teach in the School of Nursing, but as Cindy, I have many hats to wear. I have a clinical practice at HealthRight. I'm a psychiatric nurse, so I'm delighted, Tracy, that you remember everything Dorothy said. That warms my heart. But nursing has changed vastly. I've been a nurse for almost 40 years. And in those 40 years, when I first came out of my master's program, which is right out of my baccalaureate program, I worked in an inpatient psychiatric unit with a psychiatrist who walked around to see patients who were having ECT with his shock box. And he would put the shock box and he would put the leads on their head and he would bag them. At that point, we had very few, himself, no anesthesia. He did give them Brevitol, so the seizures weren't terrible. But it was kind of like being in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for a while. But we had very few medications. Our length of stay for our patients was 3 to 4 weeks. And we actually were able to stabilize them on their medications at that point, so that was a plus. But certainly the practice of psychiatric nursing has changed vastly since I started in psychiatric nursing. But I also wanted to talk about how education has changed.
Yes, please do.
When I first started teaching, which wasn't that as many years ago as that was in 1980, everything was face-to-face. We met with our students. We went to clinical with our students, and everything was face-to-face. When I came back to West Virginia, because I'm not a native, this is my second time in West Virginia, this time for 10 years, everything was online. I had no idea of how to teach online, and I was teaching in a master's program and in a doctoral program that was online, so I had to learn an entirely new education system. And as a psych nurse, I must tell you that I was truly missing those nonverbal communications. Because the only thing that I was getting in the emails were capital letters. They gave me a few non, but I think, no, really, what are they trying to tell me? So I really had to start thinking very hard about how I taught and what I taught. I've become a believer. I've become a believer because we were able to educate nurses throughout the state and throughout the world. And as one of my students, when Sam was in Iraq, she was attending our class as well. So we've been able to take our educational system well beyond our walls, which I think is just so very essential in terms of nursing education. I'm still not convinced that you can teach all of psych nursing online. But I have really become a believer, and I think that the profession of nursing has grown by enormously since I started almost 40 years ago, and so much for the better. I think we have become, rather than handmaidens, we have become colleagues with our other professionals on the team. When I was a very young student, I was told that when a doctor came into the room, if we were seated, we were to stand up. So I think we've come an enormously long way. I think we have an enormously long way to come. But I think with healthcare reform, however it's going to turn out to be, I think that we are at the table, and I think we should play a major role at that table. And I think it's a wonderful place for nurses to be.
Thank you. Susan, I'm glad you said that. It reminds me of something I once heard Ed O'Neill, who speaks a lot about nursing and workforce and healthcare issues, and he said, you know, I think what nursing needs is a little less Florence Nightingale and a little more Xena the Warrior Princess. Yes, I think so. Freddie, did you have something you wanted to add about how nursing has changed over the course of your career?
But I want to take you back to a different era than what we've been talking about. How many of you have ever had responsibility for being sure that the needles that you were going to use to give the injections with were sharp? And that you had the fluids that were going to be given IV mixed properly?
Yes. I can say that one.
Some of you have experienced that. It was a different world in the 40s and 50s. In the 60s, it began to change. You may or may not know that the first baccalaureate programs in nursing were in the early 50s. And when I told people that I was graduated from the University of Virginia, they said, oh, we didn't know they had a nursing program. Only men go there. And we were not recognized as members until 1966 of the university. We now are. And we've all been out for 50 years or more. But it was a whole different world. And someday, if you want to see, I have some artifacts which will be in the University of Virginia's, wherever they put this stuff. And at UVA, my mother was a nurse, and she had some of the actual materials that they used to do their nursing needlework. And I don't mean making something. I mean making sure your needles were sharp.
Thank you. And I think that you've given us some of these things, too, as we've set up our 50th anniversary.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Freddie, for sharing that.
And some of that is different. And you have a wonderful history. You have a wonderful history.
We're going to have one more answer to that question, and we have right here, did I see your hand going up? Thank you. And then we're going to do one thing to get everyone involved.
Thank you, Dr. Pursley. Dean, Francis Boyle, I work here at the ICU Critical Care Unit, Adult Unit here at Ruby Memorial. I think one of the biggest changes I've seen happen is the length of stay.
Yes,
now, anybody that's in healthcare talks about the length of stay. And one thing that's happened and that I've been able to observe is the role that the nurse has in that change. And the big change happened in 1995 when we had the Patient Self-Determination Act, when people start to make decisions about their own lives and their family lives instead of having someone else make the decision. The nurses have been saying all along, but doctor, the family says, the patient says, doctor says, I know what's best. A lot changed. And that's when people start to engage in the dialogue about what they wanted to do in healthcare. And the nurse has been a part of that, a special part of that role. And that role has been of trust. The patients could say, we want to do this, we don't want to do that, we want to get better, we want to feel good about ourselves.
We want to go home.
And we want to go home, and we don't want to have any pain.
Yes.
Okay? And we've been able to be a part of that. To sit at the table with the family and the docs and the patient and say, this is what's going on. And these are discussions that are no longer segregated to one place, made by one person. They're made by people. These are the changes that are going on in healthcare, and nurses are right in the front row, and they got to vote in the whole thing. And I think that's a cool thing about being a nurse. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so I said we're going to do one thing as we finish up to get everyone involved in today. And the way we started today was telling our story, learning from our history, looking forward to what our future would look like. So what I want each person to do is think of one word that you would want someone who is entering into nursing to know about, that you would never want nursing to lose as we move forward for this collective vision for the future. And I will start, Judy, you're it. One word, one word. You maybe say two, but I'm going to cut you off after two.
Impact.
Impact. Say it louder. Empathy. Okay. You can still say it, Angela. Compassion. Misty, caring? Dignity. Can we go back here? Rewarding. Spirituality, great. Thank you. Christy. Compassion. You can use someone else's word, but not too many times. I'll stop you. Mary. Nurturing. Okay, Gail, we'll go up here to you. Trusted. Good.
I say hope.
Hope. Great. Pride. Yes, yes. Relationships. Francis. Trust. Good. Chad. Nurturing. Good. Dottie.
Integrity and passion.
Good. Lindsay. 2 words. That's okay. We're going to let her go. Okay. Continuing education and lifelong learning. Good.
Excellence and diversity.
Good. Excellence and diversity. Knowledge. Good. Jane. Compassion. Tracy.
Intellectual stimulation.
Good. Freddie. Caring. The art. Good. Sam.
Multiple roles.
Okay. All right. That's okay. I said 2, not 3. Kari. Empowering patience. Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen.
Holistic.
Holistic, yes.
Right. I'm just repeating.
Empathy?
Intimacy.
Intimacy, yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Susan? Critical thinking. Good. Communication. Patient-centered. Joy? Ambition. Good, thanks. Caring and passion. Teamwork, good. Intention, okay. Versatile. Good. Inspiring. See, I told you I'd get back to you. Caring, good. From the husband of a nurse. Avocation. Fun. Good. Yay. We're all for the fun. Carol?
Actually holistic, but I'm also going to say
Collaboration. Good. Thanks. Dean Janab, we missed you.
Advocacy.
Good. Thank you.
Advocacy.
See, they're still coming up with new words all the way back here. All right, Mary. Hardiness. Good. Opportunities. Jennifer? Empowerment. Good. Connecting with people. That's 3 words, but we'll let her slide because she is toward the end. Connecting people. Okay. Samantha? Power. Good. Mary Jane? Caring presence. Good. Good.
Many hats.
Good job. Yeah. All right. Family. Okay.
Family.
Kurt, do you want to?
Respect for life.
Respect for life. Good. We're going to let him go with those 3 words because those are powerful words. Suzanne?
Educated.
Good. I think George and I are standing too close. We're feeding back off of each other's microphones. Go ahead. Pam?
Intellectual competence.
Good. Intellectual competency, for those of you who didn't hear. Quality. Yay! All the way at the end, we got a great new word. All right. Georgia, we missed you. Your word?
It's a tough one.
It is.
Everybody's been
It is.
through.
I know.
Let's do celebration.
Celebration, sounds good. All right, well, I'm going to take then the last few minutes because I have a little story. We started out by talking about stories, and some of you may have heard me tell this story before because I've used it before in a variety of different ways. But it's actually a story that appeared several years ago in the Boston Herald. And I like to use it because I think it really is impactful about someone from the outside's perspective about nursing and nurses. And so I'm going to read it, and forgive me for reading it, but you'll see why I have to read it. There was a story in the Boston Herald that was written by Beverly Beckham. She's not a nurse, but someone who, as you will see, has a lot of insight into nursing. And her article was actually written in response to another article that appeared in the Boston Globe that was called Critical Care: When Nurses Steal Drugs on the Job. So here was her response to that article. Critical care: When Nurses Steal Drugs on the Job. This was the front page headline of Sunday's Boston Globe. It came with a pie chart. If the headline didn't make you think that all nurses were stealing drugs, the charts did. All nurses, of course, are not stealing drugs. Most are working their 8 to 12-hour shifts, going home, then showing up for another day at a job you couldn't pay most of us enough to do. But what kind of a headline would that make? Nurses tending to the country's neediest. Hardly Pulitzer stuff. Nurses, the kind who never, ever make headlines, took care of my mother when she was in a coma, took care of my mother-in-law when she had her legs amputated, and my husband when he had open heart surgery, and my son when he had a bone infection, and my daughter when she had surgery, and me when I was a child, and again when I had my own children. And caring in the nursing profession takes its toll because people don't always get better. Many get worse. Nurses care for them and about them in spite of this. My mother-in-law was able to live out her life in her home because of visiting nurses. They didn't just divide her pills into one of those plastic 7-days-of-the-week cases. They explained what each pill was for. They taught her how to give herself insulin shots. They changed the dressings on her feet. After she had her legs amputated, first one and then a year later, the other, they told her about other double amputees who had a hard time at first, but ended up doing just fine. They didn't just talk to her, they also listened. They then went to someone else's house to do the very same thing. The night she died, there was a nurse on duty at the hospital who had met her just a week before. That nurse, practically a stranger, prayed with us and cried with us, and 2 days later, she came to the wake. The news more and more focuses on all the bad people do, and the bad follows us around like the moon. It's everywhere. But there's the other side of the moon, and it's not only just as real, it's bigger. But it's hidden. The way the good that nurses do is hidden, done out of the spotlight where only the sick are housed and where the healthy don't venture unless they're forced to. A nurse sat next to me all night when I was 16 and had my tonsils out. It was a simple procedure, except that something ruptured. A nurse whose face I don't remember and whose name I never knew saved me from bleeding to death. No headline there, just a nurse doing her job. In all the histrionic stories newspapers tell, hyperbole is supported by experts who are authors or clinicians or professors. In the case of nurses, patients are the real experts. For 4 years, Sal Grasso has been a patient at New England Sinai Hospital. He can't move anything except his eyes. Nurses keep him alive. They try hard. They're always under pressure, he spells out with his eyes and a computer. Hospitals are full of people like Grasso. Someone always has to be turned, fed, changed, put into a chair, taken out of a chair. Nurses do this. Many do more. On their days off, some stop by with their kids for a visit because kids cheer up the place. Some volunteer to go out with patients who can't go out without a nurse. The Globe got the critical part of the headline right. It's critical that nurses do care, and fortunately for us, they do. I can't think of a better way to sum up what you have all said today than to hear that story about the outsider perspective of nurses. And thankfully, we've also had that perspective from all of you today. So thanks for sharing your story as we create our vision to go forward for the next 50 years.
Absolutely.
Thank you, President Clement, for having us. And I'll turn this back over to Dean Norsavage.
Well, first, help me thank Dr. Pursley for superb.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. It will be available if you want to watch it again or see what you really said. But we're delighted, and we also thank all of you at home. I know I had some emails from people that were not going to be here, some of our donors and our advisory committee, that said we'll make sure we watch it on the web. So we are just delighted. What a wonderful format. Thank you to all of our technical support people, all of the wonderful people that do the IT and the video and production, television production. They've just done a great job with it. So thank you all for coming. Enjoy your Nurses Week and the rest of the year. I understand from Dottie that we're going to celebrate for the year, and we're going to continue to do it here with our celebration too. So thank you again, and thank you, President Clements. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you could come.